Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Okay, I want to get right into this today. I wasn't even sure if I was going to make this video or not. I've kind of been sitting here thinking about it for the last 2 days as I have been reading everything in real time, all the comments that have been going down on my video, on other people's videos, on the threads, commentary that I have been sent in DMs, things that people are saying to me about the Raw Beauty Kristi allegations. And so I thought, you know what? I think I want to respond to this and kind of explain from my point of view, which is why I'm wearing my shirt that says based on a true story today. I kind of wanted to share a little bit of my personal opinion and my response to this whole situation based on some comments that I received, just like 2 comments that I received, based on comments on Kristi's last video. It appears that she is deleting comments. I'm not sure if she is or not, but it appears that way. And then also some things that have come from some TikToks and other videos that I've seen. And I kind of wanted to respond to all of this. So for those of you that do not know, please go back and watch my last video that I did. I think I posted it 2 days ago about allegations that have come out about Raw Beauty Kristi. Now, before I get into this, I want to make this very, very clear. I was sent this by hundreds and hundreds of people, okay, to cover this. In fact, on the threads, people are saying that they wish more people were covering it, that bigger influencers were covering it to bring more attention to this topic. This is not something that I sought out. This is not something that I was looking for. This was brought to my attention. I was completely unaware of this until it was brought to my attention. And so the situation is, the basis of the situation, okay, is that Raw Beauty Kristi has allegedly, a couple people commented on my video and said, no, this is fact, that she is building a house for her sister on her property, okay? And that she has also talked about how she is going to homeschool her child. And that it has something to do with her sister and her homeschooling her children and things like that. And so pictures came out, apparently on this Facebook page, of Raw Beauty Kristi's child, and I've seen the pictures, so, and it is her child, in a t-shirt that had the logo and the motto of this conservative Christian organization that is anti-LGBTQIA+, okay? And so in my last video, I explained more about that. Kristi liked a lot of these pictures, okay? And then that post was taken down afterwards. So this is what came out, and people were speculating that, you know, Kristi has been saying in a lot of videos lately that she's reading the Bible, and people are like, okay, is she going this way? Is she going into, like, becoming more of a conservative Christian and things like that? And hey, if that's, you know, I said in my last video, I feel like a couple people kind of missed this, but I said in my last video, I believe in religious freedom, as long as that religion doesn't hurt somebody else, right? And I also believe in a right to believe whatever you want to believe in this country, as long as that belief doesn't hurt somebody else. I also believe, and I want to address this in regards to a couple comments that I got, a couple comments that I've seen other places, that as influencers that are pushing products that you are buying, or they are doing collaborations that they are making money off of and you are buying, okay? In the political world that we live in today, and when people say things like, why does it matter what she believes in? We're not talking about whether or not she likes mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip, okay? That's more of kind of a personal opinion, or, you know, something like that, or, you know, whether she likes, you know, crackers in her chili. That's a completely different situation. It's when somebody's personal ideology or their belief system does not align with yours, and you have the right to make the decision whether or not you're going to continue to support that person financially, put money in their pocket, because ultimately what you're doing, if you break it down, okay, let's say if this is true, that Kristi is supporting anti-LGBTQI+ organizations, and I, as a gay man, continue to buy products that Raw Beauty Kristi is being sponsored to push, or she is doing collaborations with, I am ultimately putting money in somebody that is anti-LGBT. Now, as a gay man, I take huge issue with that, okay? And I'm not really sure why that's kind of a hard stretch, where we live in a world where organizations and businesses and restaurants come out and we find out, you know, that they support this situation or this belief system or this ideology. And everywhere people are saying, ban this, ban that, don't do this, don't do that, right? So I'm not really sure why that's a hard concept to understand. And I think where we have such love for something that we're refusing to look at the truth behind it. okay? Now, as of today, this whole allegation came out about a week ago. The pictures came out right after July 4th, so today is July 12th, so it's been 8 days since the parade where her child was in this school situation. And I've looked into the school, and the school is very Christian, conservative Christian, and their belief systems is that they have to fight everything that is, you know, LGBTQIA+, because they are trying to take the children and things like that. Now, a couple people seem to misunderstand why I got in my video the last time and I addressed the James Charles situation and why it was so important for me to talk about that with Robbie D. Kristi. So I'm just going to break it down in like 2 minutes, okay? Is that I had brought out this attention that Robbie D. Kristi had supported James Charles and was unwilling to address the situation. What was interesting to me is that would have been a situation that she could have very easily come out and addressed, okay? She's talked about other things in the past, right? But James Charles, why this situation is so specifically and why it was important for me to explain it in that video, the issue that I have with James Charles, okay, and the allegations, past the allegations, right, and its continuing behavior through the years, and the issue that I have with it is that James Charles, especially in his coercion towards straight men and this idea of recruitment or changing straight men into believing that they're bisexual or they're gay, and there's been many instances of that with James Charles, that issue specifically is something that the LGBTQI+ community has fought for over 200 years, okay? That ideology that people within that community, in our community, are trying to recruit or change straight people into being gay, which is absolute nonsense, okay? And the other stigma, the huge stigma, is that gay men are pedophiles. And that's a huge stigma that has had to been fought for years and years and years, when actually the research shows that there's no correlation between the two whatsoever. And so that's been a stigma that we've had to fight for so many years. Now you have James Charles, who is somebody, and I'm going to make this very short, you have James Charles, who is somebody that self-reported that he was having inappropriate sexual conversations with minors, okay? And he identifies as a gay male. And then he is also having coercive conversations with straight men to try to coerce them into believing that they're bisexual or gay for sexual gain to have relationships with them, okay? So now Kristi, who was called out for supporting him, which she's, to this date, and that was a year ago, she has made no response to that, never let her audience know whether she stands with James Charles or against James Charles. She just performatively unfollowed him. That was it. We have no idea to this day where she stands on what she thinks about James Charles, okay? A gay man that is, you know, trying to have conversations with minors as well as trying to coerce straight men, all right? That was my first issue. Now you have Kristi. This is where I think Kristi, I was saying this to a friend of mine last night on the phone, I think Kristi is somebody that speaks very, very well, but she doesn't really think through things. And looking back at some of her videos now, I'm like, that's very apparent. Like, she can take an opinion and she can like well word it, and she's a great speaker. But I don't know that she really does a lot of research or really thinks about the things that she's saying and the implications of the things that she's saying, which is really dangerous with the size of the platform that she has. Okay, so now you have Kristi that would never speak out about James Charles, who was fighting against the LGBTQI+ community. I've said that in many videos that have nothing to do with Robbie D. Kristi, okay? And now she's part of an organization that she's going to host the school on her own property, allegedly, okay? Because they're saying that they're gonna move the school. Her sister's moving on her property and she's gonna homeschool her child. And so all of this has been said. Basically, she's hinted at it apparently in some videos. And so all this has been said, and she hasn't come out and spoken about it. So now you have this person that was supporting James Charles, who is fighting against the LGBTQI+ community with his actions. And now you have Robbie D. Kristi that is fighting against the LGBTQI+ community. And somebody said in my comment, and I think they meant it kind of like, you can't come for Kristi for both of these things. Because they said, you know, you can't come for her for supporting James Charles and come for coming, you can't have it both ways. I totally agree with you. Kristi needs to make a choice where she stands in this, right? The problem is, and the really easy way about this would be if Kristi just came out and let her audience know how she feels about things, right? But what she doesn't want to do is she doesn't want to split her audience. So she's not going to come out and she's not going to say in her video, no, I absolutely 100% do not take a stance against the LGBTQI+ community. I am not building a school on my property. I do not have these belief systems, because the people on her audience that do believe that way, she's going to lose them, okay? And she's not going to come out and she's not going to say, yes, I am a conservative Christian and I am building a school that's anti-LGBTQI+ on my property and hosting it on my property, and I do have these belief systems, and I am fine with my child believing this way. She's not going to come out and say that because then she loses her audience. That's not going to put money in her pocket if she's anti-LGBTQIA+, okay? Which is interesting to me because she has so many LGBT followers in her audience. So that it's a business move. Now, this goes back to people telling me in the past that Robbie Kristi is somebody that behind the scenes is very money hungry, okay? That she plays this kind of like, I'm building a gnome home, and people are referring to her as crunchy and granola and all this kind of stuff, and she plays that act, right? But that behind the scenes, she's very consumed with money, right? She posts videos like every 2 to 3 weeks. She really doesn't do that much work. Her videos don't get the views that they used to get a while ago. So it doesn't surprise me that like 2 videos ago, I think it was her last video, she did a sponsorship, and the whole thing was, I mean, people were complaining. They're like, you're sharing this personal experience, but the whole thing is about a sponsorship. So, do I think that any move that she would make and coming out and discussing things like James Charles, or if she is, you know, anti-LGBT or whatever, do I think that she would in her head be thinking, this is a poor business move because this is going to split my audience, I'm going to lose a lot of people if I come out and make this stance? Amen, 100%. I think that that goes back to that, to what people told me. And in retrospect and honesty, what I think that people were really telling me was, Kristi will do whatever she has to do where the money moves, okay? And I think that that's what they were really telling me in retrospect was, she's so concerned with money, she's constantly talking about money and numbers, that she's not going to say something in a video that's going to split her audience. She's not going to say something in her video. Like, if you go back and you watch her unpopular opinions videos, her opinions when she's talking about Colleen Ballinger, when she's talking about the 8-passenger situation, which was her last tweet, incidentally. I had looked like 6 months ago. Her last tweet was about the 8-passenger situation. At that point, she has exited Twitter because she was getting a lot of negative comments about the James Charles situation. So what's interesting to me is that she also is kind of like, where I noticed that she's continuing just to act as if, like, she just keeps on posting pictures, like, you know, she's posting pictures of her and these potatoes today and her dog in the yard. They're pretty pictures, you know, but she's just acting like this isn't going on when she's also deleting comments on her video. She's not responding to it. Now, this is a pretty huge allegation, okay? I mean, it's picking up a lot of momentum. There's a huge Reddit thread, mega thread. I mean, it's called a mega thread so that everybody just combines all their ideas onto one on the Beauty Guru chatter on Reddit, which is a really reputable Reddit thread. I mean, they don't allow a lot over there. They have, their moderators have all these rules. I mean, it's a really reputable thread that talks mostly about just beauty and beauty influencers. They weren't even going to allow this thread over there until other threads were saying that they wouldn't put it over there, right? So it's picking up there. It's picking up on other threads as well. Now multiple people have made videos about it. I have watched probably at this time like 3 or 4 videos about it. Videos that are much more extensive than mine are, that go into the history of Raw Beauty Kristi and things like that. And so, you know, it's interesting to me that, like I said, this is not just about like an opinion of like, I like mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip, or I like crackers in my chili. This is about a situation where she is, we don't know what she's doing, and we won't know until she comes out about it, right? And this isn't about just like a friendship that's gone awry where we feel like we have a right to know about that, or we have a right to know about something that happened, a scandal, okay? This is about, in the state that we live in today, and in the world that we live in, being able to support people that have the same ideologies as we do. I don't know about you, but I don't like to support people that don't have the same ideologies as I do, or at least I would like to have a conversation with them about their support of certain things or things that they've said. You know, it's important for me to have those conversations, and in any situation where I am anywhere, have any kind of relationship with somebody where their ideology is different than mine, you better bet that I have had those conversations, okay? And if I continue to align myself with it, there's a reason why. So for me, you know, it's interesting that she just doesn't come out and speak about this at all. Now, Raw Beauty Kristi, we know historically with like the James Charles situation, she just chose not to address it whatsoever. It's been a year and she hasn't addressed it at all, okay? Even though she came out and spoke about Colleen Ballinger. So she hasn't talked about any of those kinds of things, right? So do I expect that she's gonna come out and talk about this? I really don't. And in fact, when I looked over on the Reddit thread, it's picking up traction, but it's slower than it was a couple days ago. You know, the videos that are made have already been made, right? So people are going to stop talking about this, and this is what Kristi is banking on, right? It's the Colleen Ballinger get out of scandal theory. That, like, if I just lay low and I post pictures of flowers and me potatoes and dogs and things like that, then everybody will forget about this. I'll do 2 or 3 videos. I'll get bombarded with negative comments, but then I won't have to deal with it whatsoever. Well, for me, I can't continue to support somebody that it's questionable whether or not that they are against who I am as a person, okay? And that is who I am as a person. I am a out, proud, gay man. I have been married for, it will be 13 years in August, and I've been with my husband for 16 years. I fought for marriage equality in this country, and I came out at 18 years old in a world of fear and the AIDS crisis, and these are not things that I am afraid to stand by and say in my videos. If you have an issue supporting me after that, by all means, I'm not telling anybody to go away, but that's who I am, and that's what I represent. I also represent a lifestyle of recovery. I believe in that, and however you want to get sober. There are a lot of things that I believe in. I share my beliefs in a lot of my videos. I'm not afraid to do that, all right? So I wanted to address a couple things that I got, two comments that I got on my video. And the only reason I'm picking these comments is because I think they kind of encapsulated some of the other things that people said. I was honestly surprised. I was kind of worried to make that video. I think I said that in there actually, because I was worried that people were going to be like, oh, here he goes again, another, you know, Raw Beauty Kristi video. And actually the support on the video was just amazing, and people being like, oh my God, and people were educating me on things that they had seen about Raw Beauty Kristi, things that I didn't know. So I really appreciated the comments on there, but I wanted to address specifically two comments that somebody said. The first one was, somebody said, and this kind of encapsulates a lot of beliefs that people had that I've seen other places. Who cares? She's allowed to have her own views whether anyone else agrees or not. I'm so sick of people calling other people problematic because they have the audacity to have a mind of their own. And she doesn't have to explain anything to anyone. Be secure in your own views, leave her alone. Well, I am secure in my own views, and I don't have a problem sharing them online so that my audience knows who they're supporting. And she absolutely has 100% right to share to her views, to believe her views. Now, as a businesswoman, okay, that is selling brands to people, that is doing collaborations with other companies, and is trying to make money off of what she says. You know, this is somebody you have to remember that comes out and she does unpopular opinions videos. She comes out and shares her belief systems with people, okay? So if what she's saying on video does not align with who she is behind the scenes, then I think that our audience does have a right to know with that. When you hit a video of hers and you watch it, you're essentially putting money in her pocket. You know, when I'm watching a video of hers, which until she comes out and speaks about this, I won't go watch any more of her videos. And that's just a personal decision. You have to do you, right? But for me, I can no longer support somebody that could possibly be anti-LGBT. And until she comes out and speaks about it, like I said, this is not an issue to me like mayonnaise versus a Miracle Whip. This is an issue that she is apparently, allegedly, blatantly against who I am as a person, okay? And is for the taking away of my rights, and is for the taking away of my marriage, and is for taking away from my human rights. And I love that somebody commented on my video and said, there's no agree to disagree when it comes to human rights. And I say amen to that, okay? And so, this is a topic that I have to be honest with you with. I am not afraid to split my audience on, okay? If Raw Beauty Kristi is willing to build a school on her property and raise her child under this belief system and fervently believe this belief system where she believes in anti-LGBT rhetoric and doesn't even do her research into looking into what that is, okay? But is more worried about this or that or whatever, okay? Then for me, I can't continue to support somebody like that. I will not watch their video and give them a view and put money in their pocket if they are blatantly against who I am as a person. I just can't do that, okay? Not in the world that we live in right now, where my husband and I are having conversations about next year what could happen, okay? Like as of November, what could happen? I mean, could our marriage rights be taken away? Could sodomy laws be put back into place? Could women stop being able to vote in our country? I mean, these are really, really scary things that are going on in our life right now. And so when people say to me, why does it matter what her beliefs is? The question should be, why don't you care what her beliefs are? Okay, I think this is a time where we should be asking those questions. So I think we absolutely 100% have a right. When you're talking about an influencer, she identifies herself as an influencer, okay, that sells products. Her last video is a sponsored video, okay? She got paid to do that video. When you watch that video, you are putting money in Raw Beauty Kristi's pocket. Just like an organization, if you would give them money and they were anti-belief system to something that you believed fervently or you lived in your life, okay? So yes, we absolutely, as consumers, and like I've said for years and years and years, I am protective of the audience and the consumer. We do absolutely have a right to know what that person believes in when they are pushing us products or selling things, okay? If it's Judy Smith standing on the street and she wants to shout it and she's not selling anything, let Judy Smith shout it from the street. I don't really care, okay? And you're absolutely 100% right. Raw Beauty Kristi has every right to believe what she wants to believe in. She has every right for her views. She has every right for her belief system, okay? But when she's using her public image as a public figure to sell products to other people, and her existing as a public figure is putting money in her own pocket because people are watching her, then yes, people have a right to know, am I supporting somebody that's belief systems don't align with mine? And we're not talking about, like I said, mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip. We're talking about against somebody's lifestyle. Kristi's belief system could be part of what could take away my marriage. Okay, so do I take it personally? Yeah. That organization that she's aligning herself with has huge numbers. They've done marches on Washington. Could it be part of the rhetoric that takes away my rights? Yes. I have had friends of mine in this country that when I first came out, okay, lost their jobs because they were gay. Were fired for that, okay? Have existed around hate crimes much of my life. I mean, I think people sometimes forget like what happened with Matthew Shepard and things like that. But people, I mean, we have been victims of abuse and violence, and trans women have been killed multiple times, and people are worried that things that aren't even happening in elementary school systems, like sexuality being taught to a third grader, okay? Like, that's just not reality. And I'm so happy for the teachers that, and people are like, yes, it is, it's on TikTok. So you believe everything that you see on TikTok. Okay. Well, I'm so thankful to the teachers that sounded off in my comment section below. Teachers, I believe, and educators are some of the most underpaid people in our country that have the most important jobs. And I'm so grateful that you guys sounded off and said things like, my job is to educate children, okay, and not about sexuality. So I just wanted to make that point clear. The next comment that I wanted to address was somebody said, why can't schools be anti-sexuality no matter the orientation? Why is sexuality important? Also, why are leftists so intolerant of right-leaning people? And somebody else said Google the difference and whatever. So I want to make this very clear because I think that this is a misunderstanding about things, right? Like, of this organization that it appears that Robbie D. Kristi, and like I said, we won't know until she comes out and talks about it, they are very anti-trans people, okay? They believe that trans people are infiltrating our school systems, trans people are doing this, trans people are teaching our kids and trying to make all kids trans and things like that, right? It's this whole anti-trans rhetoric. This is where a simple Google would actually do you some work, because the difference between sexuality and gender is something that you should probably educate yourself. People that are trans, it's an issue of gender, okay? Or pronouns is an issue of gender. Being gay, being bisexual, being heterosexual is actually a sexuality, okay? So for example, let me go in here, and I tried to find two of the most reputable sources that I possibly could. So I went over here to look at heterosexuality, and I Google searched it, and it says on here, heterosexuality, this is from a dictionary, is romantic attraction, sexual attraction, or sexual behavior between people of the opposite sex or gender, okay? Just to make sure that you understand when people are talking about sexuality, because when we talk about sexuality, sexuality gets such a bad connotation, and the reason that it gets a bad connotation is because when we talk about sexuality, when you say somebody's sexuality, you immediately, just think about this. Most people, I think, immediately think when you say sexuality, you think about gay men, lesbians, and bisexual people, okay? That's immediately what people go to when they talk about sexuality, all right? They don't think about heterosexuality being sexuality. And most people don't think that because they think that's the norm, right? So if that's the norm, if heterosexuality is a norm, which has been taught in our school systems for hundreds and hundreds of years, okay? Heterosexuality is a norm, okay? For example, we have school dances. Most public schools, most private schools have school dances, okay? It wasn't until about 10 or 15 years ago that people started, like, guys started taking other guys to proms, and that was a huge deal, okay? I can tell you that if I had taken a guy to prom, or it was one of the reasons why I didn't go to school dances, okay? Because I knew I was gay and I didn't want to go with somebody that I didn't like, okay? And so if that only happened like 15 years ago, that means prior to that, heterosexuality has been taught in our school systems for 200 years. Well, just because that's the norm for you doesn't mean it's the norm for me. One of the reasons why it was so hard for me to come out, one of the reasons why so many LGBT people hate themselves, okay, is because of religious rhetoric that has been taught, all right? Or that school system has been taught that the norm is heterosexuality, right? And so if you're anything different than that, you feel like I'm abnormal, I'm weird, I'm different. That's what I was taught. I don't know what other people, I can only share my experience based on a true story, okay? I was taught that I was weird and I was different because I was outside the norm. All the books that I read, okay, when I was growing up and I was in school, all the books had heterosexual relationships. I don't know today what they're teaching, but none of them had homosexual relationships in them, okay? All the plays that we did in school had heterosexual relationships. When we played house in kindergarten and first grade, we played mother, father, children, okay? We didn't play two mothers. We didn't play two fathers. Nobody had any issues with this back then, right? When heterosexuality was rampantly being taught in our school systems, and it's still to this day. Even gay people don't take an issue with this to this day, right? We don't take an issue with that, the fact that our children, and many gay couples and lesbian couples do have children today, that their children are rampantly being taught heterosexuality in the school systems. Have you ever asked yourself the question why? Because we've had to transform and we've had to morph into being what's regular in school systems for years and years and years out of safety, okay? So when you want to talk about sexuality being taught in a school system, instead of immediately going to bisexuality or homosexuality, let's also talk about heterosexuality being taught in school systems. So if you want to eliminate sexuality from being taught in the school systems, we're going to have to change all the books that we read, okay? We're not going to be able to talk about mom and dad and this and that. We're not going to be able to have school dances anymore, okay? We're not going to be able to talk about, oh, Johnny has a crush on Judy and he's running around after her isn't that cute? We're not going to be able to have Valentine's Days where we give Valentines to people. We're going to have to eliminate all that stuff, okay? We're going to have to eliminate all of that. If you want to talk about sexuality, and we're going to eliminate sexuality from school systems when people talk about that, and I don't have an issue, okay? I don't have an issue with heterosexuality being the norm taught in school systems, okay? What I have an issue with is rhetoric that's being taught, so since people want to educate themselves, and this is true, that when a trans person, like in Indiana, when a trans kid comes to a counselor, a teacher, or a principal and informs them that they feel that they are trans, okay? Or they have a sexuality issue, or they feel that they might be bisexual, or that they might be gay, or that they might be lesbian, or they might be bisexual, okay? Their teacher has an intent to inform their parents, all right? Well, we don't know what that parent group looks like. You may be sending that child home to a home that will kill that child. We don't know that, right? But people are worried about kids being taught these things in school systems that aren't being taught, or you see one TikTok out of a million experiences that are happening in a day, right? Okay, so I just want to make that very, very clear. First of all, the difference that heterosexuality actually is a sexuality. So from going forward, I hope after watching this video, when people want to talk about sexuality being taught in a school, or sexuality being taught here, or people pushing their sexuality, okay? Think about how many times you walk down the street and you see a straight couple holding hands, or in a movie theater kissing, or going on a date, and what is normal, okay? And how gay people might feel that that is normal, and how heterosexuality has been pushed on us for hundreds of years, okay? Because that's normal, right? So you're not really talking about sexuality being pushed on somebody else. What you're saying is you feel normal and this is abnormal. Let's just make this very, very clear what we're talking about now, okay? What you're saying is that anybody that has a differing sexuality than you is a weirdo, that they're different, they're abnormal, okay? And trust me, I have felt that for 52 years. So when I have an influencer, okay, that is part of something that is anti-LGBT, you're asking me if why do I care? I care a lot, okay? Because I have had to live in a world where I couldn't walk down the street holding my hand with my boyfriend or my husband, okay? Or I couldn't kiss them in public out of safety because I was worried, all right? That I was worried that I was going to get my ass kicked, that I was going to get killed on the street, all right? I've had friends of mine that were killed. I had a friend of mine that was shot in the head. All right? So when we want to talk about all these situations and we want to talk about this, please really do your education. When you talk about sexuality being pushed in a school system or sexuality being pushed here, heterosexuality is a sexuality as well, all right? One of the things that we forget. Now, I went over to the Mayo Clinics to educate you people on trans issues, just for people that don't know, because I know the majority of my audience does know this. Being transgender, the terms transgender and gender diverse cover a range of gender. Now, I think we can probably all agree that the Mayo Clinic is a pretty objective and educated institution, right? Okay. Identities and gender expressions. These terms move past the idea that all people can be classified as only one or two genders, female or male. The idea is called the gender binary. Gender binary is the internal sense of being male, female, neither, or some combination of both. Gender expresses typically involves how gender identity is shown to the outside world through the way a person looks or acts. Gender expression may include clothing, mannerisms, communication style, and interests, among other things, okay? People who are transgender or gender diverse include those who have gender identity that differs from the sex assigned to them at birth, those whose gender expression doesn't follow society's norms for the sex assigned to them at birth, those who identify and express their gender outside of their gender binary. Gender identity and sexual orientation. Most people have a sense of physical, emotional, and romantic attraction to others. Sexual orientation describes a group of people to whom this attraction is directed. For example, a person may be attracted to men, women, both, or neither. Being transgender or gender diverse isn't linked to a specific sexual orientation. And gender orientation can't be assumed based on gender identity or gender expression. So when people want to say things like, trans people are teaching sexuality in schools, that's such an ignorant statement, it doesn't even make sense, okay? If you wrote that on a paper, it would get red marked, all right? Because gender identity and sexuality aren't even the same thing, all right? And do your research when you want to say these things to me. Now, like I said, I live in a world where I believe that people have a right to their belief systems and they have a right to their religious freedom. 100% I believe that, all right? It's one of the things that I take pride in, all right? But I will say that when it hurts other people, now, if you want to come out and say, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with somebody doing this, you have every right to say that. People say that on my videos all the time. I don't delete those comments. I'm not Raw Beauty Kristi. I'm not out here rampantly deleting comments, okay? Even though I get accused of that all the time, I leave my comments up, okay? So, you know what? When she wants to come out and address it and where her stance is, what I will say to this person, this is going to stop, hold on a second. What I will say to this person that said, let her be, okay, well, then that same rhetoric should go for people of the LGBT community, right? Let them be. I don't understand how my husband and I existing in a home with neighbors that love us and our dog and going out to dinner with friends is affecting anybody else's life at all. Period, end of story. Okay? I don't know how that affects anybody whatsoever. I don't know how it's anybody else's business out there. Okay? And yet those rights people want to take away from us. For what? Just let us be, right? Like I've said this for years and years and years. I will never understand when somebody fights so hard for these things and their belief systems, when we're not affecting those people's lives whatsoever. I have never once in my 52 years had anybody come to me and say, because of you, I feel like I'm gay now. Or because of you, I feel like I've questioned my... Nobody has ever said that to me. Never once in my 52 years of living here. And I've known a lot of people in my life. Nobody ever in a video has ever said that to me. Now, people in videos have said to me, thanks for sharing your recovery story, because that really helps me. People in my video the other day that I did about OCD said, wow, like hearing you say it this way really helped me. I feel seen. When I've shared about grief, when I've shared about other things, I've shared a lot of life experiences on my videos, and a lot of people have commented to me, sent me emails and DMs and said, thank you for sharing this. I feel seen. Never in my 52 years or my 8 years on YouTube has anybody ever said to me, you made me rethink my sexuality because of sharing your story. Never once has that ever occurred to me. Has that ever, never once has that ever happened to me. Never once. So I must not have that much pull, and it must be these deceivious people out there in the LGBT community that are trying to rifle through the system and just change people left and right. There's not even that many of us out there if you do your research. I think the research is something like we're 10% of the community. So 10% is trying to infiltrate the other 90% and get into the school systems and change kids so that they're all trans. And you guys think that this isn't a conspiracy? That there isn't like crazy thinking to this? Okay. And we don't have a right to know these things. All right. So I wanted to just address those situations, okay? And you can believe what you want to believe. You can believe that trans people aren't trans people. You can believe that. Just leave people alone, all right? When you want to look at the statistic that, you know, black trans women of color are the highest incident of murder in our country, okay? Then people are messing with us. It's not the other way around, all right? Like, that's a huge issue. And maybe that's the issue that we need to be talking a little bit more about. So do we have a right to know that an influencer is out there that is hugely part of an organization that is spreading untruthful, harmful rhetoric that could affect us? I have absolutely 100% have a right to know that, because I'm not putting any money in that woman's pocket or that man's pocket that believes those things. Period. End of story. I'm just not. And when you know better, you do better. So when Kristi wants to come out and she wants to address this and say, I'm not part of this, okay, then I'll get in a video and say, Kristi came out and addressed it, and she said she's not part of this. You know, and we'll see moving forward what she does, and if this school's built, and if there's any other pictures that are taken, and maybe she'll do a better job at hiding it, or maybe she was never part of it to begin with. Or if Kristi wants to come out and say, I am part of this, and she wants to stand behind her belief systems as strongly as I'm standing behind mine. But until she does, we won't know from her. And we can speculate all we want, but all we have right now is the evidence of her liking pictures of an anti-LGBT organization, co-signing their mission, all right? So, you know, a lot of these influencers have been had what they so-called cancellations over a lot less, okay? Over a lot of other things, right? You know, and when we talk about this idea of, you know, like being seen in schools or whatever, like, I think one of the reasons why I get so irritated about that, and I feel so strongly about this, and this is one of the reasons why I did want to share this issue today, even this pillow is not doing me great, is that I remember hearing the author of the book Americana, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she was speaking about growing up in Nigeria and her experience of moving to the United States. And when she started writing, when she was a young girl, she would write books, and her books would have blonde hair and pale-skinned girls in them. And her mother said to her at one point, "Why do you continue to write these books with pale-skinned girls and blue eyes and blonde hair?" And she said, "Because those are the characters in the books that I read." So what we see is what we know, right? When I grew up in a world, all right, where people were coupling off on the playground, or we were reading books in school about mommies and daddies and kids and dogs and puppy dogs and Thanksgiving dinners and all that kind of stuff, when we were having school dances that were boy and girl, when that was the way that we teamed up in gym, was all boys on one side, all girls on one side, I was being taught something that I didn't even realize that I was being taught at that time. It was one of the reasons why I didn't feel seen for a very, very long time, okay? I know that that is true today because kids are still killing themselves on a regular basis for being bullied in the school systems, for being part of the LGBTQI+ community. It's something that happens on a pretty regular basis. If this rhetoric were true and it was existing and people were being changing, those kids wouldn't be killing themselves because they would be so seen in the school systems, okay? They would feel so seen. You know, not until I heard her speak about her experience as a Nigerian woman writing about white girls, okay, that had blonde hair and blue eyes and pale skin, and that was the only relatable she had to a character in a book, and so she felt she had to write those characters. Not until I heard that did I feel like, wow, like, I've never seen myself. It's one of the reasons why I believe in young adult fiction, and I believe in movies today for adults, and ever that we have own voices, and that people within the LGBT community are playing our roles and are writing our stories and are telling our stories of our experience. Whatever you relate to, whatever you are, that your story is important, okay? And turning our wounds into wisdom is important. So it is important for me that we talk about this. It is very important to me. And if this video is uncomfortable for people to watch, it's been uncomfortable for me to live for 52 years of my life, right? It's one of the reasons why I so avidly believe in pride in our country. And people are like, oh, well, if I'm going to have pride, have a straight pride. Have a straight pride parade. I don't care. But you don't need to stand outside of our parade with banners and saying that we're all going to hell and that we deserve AIDS. That's what we deal with, okay? So have your straight parade. Celebrate being straight all day long. I don't take that away from you whatsoever. Let us live our lives, you know? One of the things that made me so happy, and for those of you that didn't watch the very end of my video the other day, was that I shared in my video that I was raised by a loving Christian mother of very strong faith that never made me feel weird, never made me feel different, you know? Loved me as she believed Jesus loved people when I came out to her, and was worried about my safety. And the first thing that my mom said to me is, she said, "I'm worried for you." And I came out in the world of AIDS, and I was afraid that that's what she meant, that I was going to get AIDS. And I said to my mom, I've shared this on many, many videos. You can go back and fact check this. And I said to my mom, "Mom, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to practice safer sex. I'm not going to, you know, whatever." And my mom said to me, she said, "That's not what I'm talking about. If that happens, we will cross that bridge when we come to it and we will deal with it. But that's not what I'm talking about. Society is not kind to gay people." That was in 1990. It's 2024, okay? People want to say to me that the world is not moving backwards. There was a long period in my life that I felt very loved and very kind, treated very kindly and very accepted by the majority of society. And I'm talking specifically in the United States, because this isn't something that I necessarily experience when we go outside of this country at all, you know? And so for me, some of the comments that made me so happy on my video was when people were saying, like, I'm a loving Christian and I am absolutely 100% in support of LGBT people. And that made me so happy, because I see a lot of videos where people are like, down with all Christians, down with all straight people. I'm not of that belief system. I am so incredibly grateful for my Christian and straight allies that I have that have supported me along the way. I'm incredibly grateful for that. But let's get off my video for a second, and let's go over here and let's look at some of the comments that Kristi is ignoring. Well, on her own video, hold on a second. Kristi is ignoring these videos on her own video. She's deleting comments, but she's leaving a few of them up. Somebody said, officially unsubbing from your channel. Not only is this video disappointing, but it's sad to hear that you've been supporting Christian nationalist groups that have spent their time harassing LGBTQ+ people and fear-mongering against other people who want to do nothing but exist on their own skin. I hope that you realize someday that this isn't okay and reflect on the things you have supported. Please do better, and if you choose not to do so, keep your divisive and harmful views offline where they belong. And this has 32 likes on it, okay? Somebody said, are you an alt-writer? Lots of things on TikTok saying you are. I really hate to hear this. Not the friend I thought you were. Somebody said, oh, lame. I followed you for so long. Are you effing alt-right now? will wait for more proof, but so wildly suspicious. Now, you would think that she would want to address that, right? I mean, and then it goes down, that's like 6 comments from like 1 day ago. And, I mean, here's another one. Wow, what happened to you, girl? Beyond disappointed after hearing about the hateful SH I took you're wrapped up in now. I'm sure you're going to be just fine financially, but good luck to you otherwise. So they go on and on and on about this, right? And then I was sent this TikTok. I think it's called Centennial World or something. Here, I'll pull it up in just a second because I looked at all these. It's by Centennial World. A couple people sent this TikTok to me on like in DMs, and then I got texted by a few people. But I went underneath here and I read a couple of these comments, and I was like, this is so interesting to me, right? So this is obviously the take and the stance on this. Somebody said, so she can't have her own beliefs, let people live. And somebody responded and said, no one said she can't, but her supporters deserve to know who or what they are supporting. And somebody else said bigotry. And then somebody said, yeah, because bigotry is when you want LGBTQ people to know the person they like online is contributing to ideologies that directly harm them. Does that make sense? Somebody said, I don't support people whose beliefs put me and people I love in danger. That's exactly what this is about, right? This is not just about somebody having a belief system about Miracle Whip, okay? This is about somebody supporting, funding, building a school, putting it on their property, okay? This is huge allegation. Do not come out and address it whatsoever. She believes in it that fervently that she's going to these lengths. How do you think she's building this school? How do you think she's building her sister's house from the money that she's made off of YouTube and the sponsorships that she just did on? I mean, that's how she's affording this. Yeah, I absolutely 100% have a right to know if that money is going into somebody out there that's going to harm my lifestyle. 100%, I have absolutely every right to know that. Somebody said, I don't support people whose beliefs put me and the people I love in danger. That's sort of the bare minimum. Somebody said, we don't ever need to tolerate intolerance, period. Somebody said, yeah, except these belief systems literally kill people. And that's the truth. Somebody said, who said that? You can believe what you want, but I don't support people who are anti-LGBTQ. All these people are tagging Kristi in this, so it's not like she hasn't seen it, okay? I mean, when I get to the TikTok, I'll show you how many it had on it when I looked at it. Somebody tagged her, and then they said, yeah, explain. Somebody said she's not going to explain. She's going to keep posting like normal and hope it blows over, because that's what she always does, right? Somebody said, will y'all just let people live? Jesus effing Christ. And somebody said, if she's against gay people, then wouldn't that be her not letting people live? Exactly. Somebody said 100%, and she's been deleting everything she can when people ask her about it. Somebody said, if this is true, she's not against gay people. She's against sexual topics being taught to elementary age children. The fact that that's inappropriate and gross should be common sense, I fear. Can somebody give me, I can give you, like I said in my video the other day, I can give you 100 to 1,000 incidents of hate crimes that have occurred in this country in this year. I can probably give you, I know that the rate is something like 1,000 trans women of color have been killed in this country already this year. I can tell you the incidences of intolerance and violence that have happened towards the LGBTQ. I mean, I could come up with hundreds of thousands of examples of that. Could you guys come up with maybe 100 examples of where children in public school systems are being taught homosexual rhetoric in a sexual manner when they're grades 1 through 5? I haven't heard of that at all. I mean, I've seen TikToks where people are implying that, but I would like to see a school curriculum. Could somebody please send me a school curriculum, okay, that is showing that this is the rhetoric that they're talking about. This is the lesson. This is in their lesson plan, okay? I mean, let's just call it, if these people want to say it like this, let's just say it how it is, okay? Could somebody show me a 2nd grade school lesson plan that says on Thursday, we're going to teach Johnny and Sally how to give head to somebody of the same sex? Could somebody fucking show that to me, please? If we're going to believe this, okay, and say that kids are being taught sexuality in school that's homosexual, could somebody show me that school lesson plan, please? I would like to see it, okay? While I'm gathering my evidences of the thousands of incidents of hate crime that occurs before the LGBTQI+ community in our country every month. Please, somebody give me one incident and show me one lesson plan that shows that. And a teacher is actually teaching things like anal sex, oral sex, okay? I'm not talking about the prevention of STD and HIV. I'm not talking about that, okay? That you should be learning in middle school. To straight, gay, anybody out there should be learning those things, okay? I'm not talking about that. You want to talk about teaching kids, little kids, about sexual behavior. Where is that occurring? Can somebody show me the evidence of that? Please. I'm not talking about a joke that one teacher put up and somebody caught it in a TikTok and it's gone viral. I'm talking about a lesson plan, all right? That has been approved by the school administrator and is being taught regularly in a school system. If we're going to believe this, I want to see the evidence. Send it to me. My email's listed below. Somebody said, girl, no one is teaching children about gay sex. Are you insane? Exactly. Somebody said, you're weird. Somebody said, unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I used to love her so much when she started downplaying her I'm getting all that. Somebody said, nothing wrong with how she wants to live her life. Just leave her alone. Somebody said, her LGBTQ followers deserve to know she is directly supportive of things that can harm them. 100%. And somebody said this. Somebody said, tagged her and said, say it ain't so. Somebody said, I think it's called having values. You guys are crazy, and they come for her. Somebody said, oh, well, here's, and then that's the last one. And here is the TikTok from Centennial World. And when I looked at it, I had 357 comments on it, and it had only been out for a couple hours. People were sending it to me. Like here, somebody said, Bethany said, hi, Peter. I know you're not much for the TikTok, but Centennial World did a really good job. They commented on my video. Did a really good video covering the story if you're interested. So it doesn't seem to me that the majority of it is on the side of Raw Beauty Kristi. But I will say this, right? And this whole idea of going back to money and splitting your audience. While I think that a lot of people will be surprised by this with Kristi, and she has come across as seemingly being somewhat liberal-minded when it comes to topics and issues, and all that kind of stuff in the past. If that's not really the case, I think she might lose some of that audience. But she also, and she has to know this as a businesswoman, there's a lot of people out there that support her ideology. She's not going to lose those people, and she might even gain some. So do I think in the long run that it will really hurt her? No. But do I think that her audience has a right to know if this is what she's believing in at this point? Absolutely. Like I said, we're not talking about mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip, okay? I can't stand Miracle Whip. But if I was following an influencer that loved Miracle Whip, I could get behind that all day long, okay? Can I get behind somebody that wants to spew a bunch of bullshit and take away my rights as a gay man in this country? No, I absolutely can't stand behind that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.